Welcome, traveler. Today, we slip through the cracks of reality and plunge into the ever-shifting chaos of limbo, where thought shapes matter, and nothing stays the same for long. And lurking in that storm of madness are the Slaads. Frog-like in form, but born of pure chaos, Slaads are not just monsters, they're walking manifestations of disorder itself. From mindless red brutes to cunning death slades, whispering dark secrets, these creatures infect minds, corrupt order, and multiply like a plague no plane can fully contain. In this episode, we unravel the strange origins of the slaadi race, the meaning behind their twisted hierarchy, and the disturbing way they reproduce spreading chaos in the most literal way possible. If you're fascinated by the bizarre, the unpredictable, and the things that make even demons nervous, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps support the journey and lets me know you're ready for more lore that walks the edge of madness. And, in the comments, tell me, what plane, creature, or cosmic force should we explore next? Your idea might just be the seed of our next descent. Now that the first whispers from limbo have had time to settle in your thoughts, like strange echoes in a quiet room, we can begin a deeper reflection, a slow, vivid meditation on the strange and alien essence of the Slaads. To envision a Slaad is not just to picture a creature, but to glimpse a physical echo of pure chaos made flesh. They are not shaped with intention or design, but with the untamed brushstrokes of a world that resists all order. What you behold is not a monster in the traditional sense. It is a force, a living fragment of Limbo's ever-changing soul. Imagine a being that might resemble some distorted form of an immense bipedal toad, but that familiarity quickly collapses under the weight of closer observation. The Slaad is fundamentally amphibious, yes, but it is also something far more wild and undefined. Its body is broad and thickly muscled, built not only for strength, but for endurance in a place where gravity can shift with thought and terrain can dissolve into air. Its very frame pulses with a coiled potential, a barely contained force that feels like it could erupt at any moment. Their skin is a world unto itself. Some are covered in slick, oily membranes that shimmer with colors not found on any natural spectrum, an ever-changing reflection of Limbo's shifting light. Others bear thick, pitted hides like volcanic stone, tough and knotted, as if armored against the reality around them. In some, jagged plates of bone or chitin seem to grow from their backs and shoulders, only to melt away or shift place the next time you look. Their bodies breathe chaos, not metaphorically, but literally. They shift subtly even when still, like ripples beneath the skin, as though the law of anatomy is merely a suggestion. Their faces, if such a term can even apply, are dominated by enormous eyes, round and unblinking, filled with a cold inner light. These are not eyes made to connect with another being. They do not search for emotion nor reflect empathy. They see the world in tides of energy, in motion and stillness, in change and entropy. Beneath those strange, glowing orbs lies a broad, lipless mouth filled with teeth, some long and jagged, others short and crooked, as though the maw reconfigures itself from meal to meal. When they vocalize, it is not speech in any sense we know, but a sound that comes from deep within, croaks, echoes, grinding growls, resonant pulses that seem to make the air vibrate. One does not just hear a Slaad. It is as if your bones briefly remember Limbo. Their limbs, thick and corded with unnatural strength, end in hands or claws that vary even between individuals of the same kind. Long fingers tipped with razor talons, some gnarled and bony, others smooth and jointless, always capable of both delicate manipulation and violent destruction. Despite their size, they move with a surprising quietness, a strange, almost ghost-like grace, their mass never quite matching the impact of their presence. Even when still, they are never truly still. The energy within them resists quietude. There is always a flicker of movement beneath the skin, a shifting of weight, a tilt of the head, as if some inner chaos refuses to let them rest for long. Now, let us turn our attention to the different castes, or perhaps more fittingly, expressions of the slaadi. Each color is not just a marker of rank or type, but a stage of being, a reflection of Limbo's eternal mutation. They are not born so much as they emerge, as if each type is an answer to a different question posed by the plane's instability. Let us begin with the red Slaad, the most common, and often the first step in their strange, evolving life cycle. To see a red Slaad is to look into the raw, unshaped foundation of chaos itself. Their skin gleams with deep crimson hues, mottled with rust, blood, and sometimes the subtle shimmer of purples and blacks, colors that seem to shift depending on the light or your gaze. They are brutal in build, thick and muscular, their entire form radiating potential violence and unpredictable energy. But despite their monstrous presence, they are not mindless. Their instincts are sharp, primal, and filled with a cunning that is not intelligence in the academic sense, but something deeper survival as a form of expression. They lurch and leap with sudden speed, only to fall completely still, their breathing shallow, their glowing eyes watching. Their behavior is difficult to predict. One moment, they move like enraged beasts. The next, they sit perfectly still, skin flickering in the light, as if waiting for some unseen sign to act. When at rest, a red Slaad appears like a sleeping volcano still on the surface, but trembling with the promise of eruption. Their wide mouths twitch faintly, their claws knead the earth beneath them, and the pulse of Limbo is visible just beneath the skin. They are not just creatures of chaos. They are chaos made flesh, the beginning of a pattern that has no end, the foundation upon which stranger forms will grow. Next, we encounter the blue Slaad. These beings are often marked by a deep azure or vibrant sapphire hue, sometimes streaked with darker, almost black blues. Compared to the red Slaad, their bodies tend to be leaner, hinting at a more focused, but no less insidious expression of chaos. What sets them apart is their unsettling method of propagation, not brute force, but infection. The blue Slaad spreads its essence through a virulent chaos phage, a corrupting influence that slowly twists and transforms other living beings from within. Their cold, piercing eyes seem to reflect more than just malice. They echo something subtler, more invasive. Just being near, one can feel unnerving, as though the air itself carries a quiet sickness, a creeping change that you can't quite place. Their presence lingers like a chill you can't shake, unsettling in its silence. They are not the scream of chaos, but the whisper, the quiet carriers of transformation. In them, anarchy wears a colder face, embodied in their unnerving blue skin and quiet viral purpose. As a Slaad continues its bizarre evolution, it may transform into a green Slaad, a marked shift in both power and temperament. These creatures exhibit a cunning intellect and the emerging ability to wield raw, chaotic magic. Their skin ranges from murky swamp green to sharp emerald, often lined with darker ridges or flowing patterns. Their features grow sharper, their eyes gleaming with a dangerous awareness, a hint of strategy beneath their chaotic exterior. Though still primal, green Slaads are thinkers. They scheme. They bend chaos to their will, not to create order, but to better spread disorder. Their croaks carry an eerie resonance, almost like incantations, and their movements suggest both instinct and intention. They are chaos, refined, not softened, but weaponized through intellect and unpredictability. Here, Chaos learns to plan. Further along the path or through rare and harrowing rituals, a green Slaad may ascend to the state of a gray Slaad. These are far more elusive, cloaked in tones of stony gray, sometimes overlaid with faint, smoke-like patterns that drift and shimmer across their skin. Unlike their more feral kin, gray Slaads exude a strange, contemplative stillness. Their power is not shouted, but felt profound, restrained, and deeply tied to the raw essence of limbo itself. They move with calm, deliberate intent, as if nothing could surprise them because chaos, to them, is not a force to fear, but to study and embody. Their eyes often hold an ancient glow, distant and unfocused, like they're watching something far beyond what others can perceive. They are beings of insight, wielding magic with precision, not randomness. In them, chaos becomes a concept rather than an impulse unpredictable, yes, but sharpened into something almost philosophical. And finally, we reach the harrowing summit of this strange progression, the Death Slaad. These are creatures of pure nightmare, immense in power, horrifying in purpose. Their skin is jet black, often veined with bone-white ridges or glowing crimson lines that pulse beneath the surface like molten veins of hate. Their bodies are lean and skeletal, wrapped in an aura of cold that seems to drain the warmth from the air. The Death Slaad is the end of the line not just in form but in purpose. They exist to undo, to unravel, to end. They are not chaos in motion, but chaos perfected, a final, silent judgment against all things structured. They move with terrifying precision, each step a blow to stability, each action calculated, measured, lethal. Their silence is absolute, and their presence feels like standing at the edge of a void where nothing, not light, not life, not hope, can survive. To see one, even in imagination, is to stare into the heart of cosmic oblivion. It's important to grasp that these varied forms of Slaads aren't simply different species coexisting in a fixed biological hierarchy. Rather, they often represent stages of a disturbing, unpredictable metamorphosis, a twisted life cycle shaped by chaotic impulse or triggered by powerful external forces. A Slaad may shift from one color to another, not through aging or natural growth, but through violent magical transformation. Some undergo these changes by enacting strange, arcane rituals of their own making. Others consume enchanted artifacts or absorb the life force of powerful beings, using that stolen essence to fuel their evolution. In rare and eerie cases, a Slaad will enter a chrysalis-like state, a silent, motionless pause in their existence, where their body melts down to a pulsing mass of raw potential, only to be reshaped, reborn into something far more dangerous. It is a process without rules, without consistency, driven entirely by the chaotic forces that define their very nature. This terrifying fluidity serves as a stark reminder. Slaads are not governed by the predictable laws of biology. They are walking embodiments of chaos, living anomalies that rewrite their own forms, again and again, in an endless alien dance of shifting flesh and unstable identity. Having allowed the alien forms of the Slaads to settle within your contemplation, we now journey deeper back to the very root of their existence, to the question of what they truly are. To understand the Slaads in any meaningful way, one must first feel the raw pulse of their birthplace, limbo. Limbo is not a place, as most would understand it. There is no steady ground, no predictable seasons, no constants to cling to. It is the purest embodiment of unshaped chaos, a storm of raw creation where the elements clash and dissolve in endless cycles. Massive shards of stone may form in midair and crumble seconds later. Rivers of fire cascade into seas of ice. Mountains made of thought itself may rise, only to collapse back into mist and memory. In this realm, reality shifts with every passing moment. Even thought, if focused sharply enough, can momentarily shape the world around it. Time has no true meaning here. And within this storm of uncertainty, the Slaads did not arrive. They were born. They are not intruders in limbo, nor explorers seeking to conquer it. They are its native children, living echoes of its endless movement. They coalesce directly from the chaotic energies of the plane, much like life emerging from a primordial sea or crystals forming in saturated fluid. Every sinew, every breath they take, is an extension of limbo itself. Slaads are not simply survivors of chaos, they are its apex form, its will-given body. They thrive in the unpredictability, constantly shifting, reforming, and feeding on the very volatility that defines their home. To see a Slaad in limbo is to witness the plane's essence made flesh, bizarre, unpredictable, and alive with formless intent. Yet, in the middle of all this madness, there is one strange contradiction, a still point, a fixed mystery at the heart of chaos, the spawning stone. Picture an immense monolith, half crystal, half something far older, its surface etched with strange patterns that resist all translation. It doesn't float, fly, or drift. It simply is a permanent fixture in a world of impermanence. The spawning stone hums with deep, resonant energy, like the baseline of existence itself. Here, at this improbable anchor in the sea of chaos, something remarkable happens. The wild energies of limbo begin to take form. They don't settle into order, no, not that. But they focus, coalesce, becoming something almost, but never quite stable. It is near this stone that new Slaads are birthed, most often as red Slaads, the base form in their bizarre life cycle. The spawning stone acts like a womb for chaos, drawing in the swirling essence of limbo and giving it just enough shape to breathe life into the formless. The Slaads themselves feel this connection deeply. The thrum of the stone resonates within their bodies and minds, a constant, quiet reminder of where they came from and what they are. It's not worship, but something more primal, belonging. Unlike most creatures, the Slaads don't have a written history. They have no tomes of lineage, no scrolls of conquest. Their history is a rhythm, a feeling, an ever-renewing cycle written in the shifting patterns of limbo itself. Their past, like their future, is fluid unfolding not in moments, but in patterns, in flows of energy and change. But they do have enemies. Chief among them are the Modrons of Mechanus, beings of perfect law, logic, and order. Where the Slaads are spontaneous, wild, and ever-changing, the Modrons are clockwork creatures, precise in every motion, marching in perfect unison to the unyielding will of absolute law. The conflict between them is not always one of battlefields and bloodshed. It's something older, deeper, a struggle of ideologies written into the bones of the multiverse. Mechanus seeks to impose clarity, hierarchy, rules. Limbo resists with every breath. And the Slaads, as the living avatars of chaos, strike back not with strategy, but with spontaneity, with disruption. A Modron march may be interrupted by an unexplainable warp in space. An agent of order might vanish into a ripple of formless matter. It's not sabotage, it's equilibrium. This opposition is a vital part of the multiverse's balance. It is the dance between stasis and change, between predictability and possibility. The Slaads don't seek to win. They seek to exist, to be the eternal reminder that nothing is ever truly permanent, not even law itself. And so, the story of the Slaads is not a story in the conventional sense. It is a presence, a vibration in the fabric of the planes. They are the living embodiment of the idea that creation itself needs unpredictability, that in the spaces where structure dominates, something wild must always remain. They are the pulse of chaos in a world desperate for meaning, And in their unsettling, ever-shifting form, they remind us that not all things are meant to be understood. Some are only meant to be witnessed. To understand a Slaad is to accept a truth that defies structure. Its every action, every twitch of instinct or flicker of thought is an echo of unbound chaos. These beings are not guided by logic, nor by a long-term goal or coherent plan. Their behavior is shaped moment to moment, driven by sudden whims, fleeting impulses, or bizarre motivations born from the churning, shifting essence of limbo itself. A Slaad doesn't contemplate consequences. It doesn't strategize or deliberate in the way creatures of order might. Instead, it reacts, responds, erupts. To witness a Slaad is to see a creature animated by the raw, unpredictable energy of its native plane, where every action is the result of an impulse, and every impulse is chaos made flesh. This same chaotic foundation informs the way they gather, or more accurately, the way they don't. Slaads have no permanent cities, no lasting communities, no complex social hierarchies. They don't build structures, draft treaties, or maintain traditions. Instead, their gatherings are spontaneous and impermanent, more like storms than societies. They may cluster around a particularly powerful Slaad lord, or a chaotic phenomenon of sufficient intensity, only to scatter moments later without warning. These congregations rise and fall like waves, shaped entirely by instinct, whim, or shared resonance. One moment, a dozen Slaads may work together to tear apart a structured reality. The next, they turn on each other, the alliance having served its purpose or simply ceased to be interesting. Their methods of communication reflect this same alien unpredictability. Slaads speak in croaks, growls, guttural screeches, noises that sound like pure nonsense to most ears. Yet these crude sounds convey something deeper, something primal. Beneath the cacophony lies an intent that's felt more than understood, a message that resonates rather than explains. More unsettling still is their telepathy, a jarring, overwhelming burst of chaotic thought that forces itself into the minds of others. It does not speak in words or ordered thought. It manifests as raw sensation, emotion, or disjointed imagery. Receiving a telepathic message from a Slaad is not like hearing a voice in your head. It's like being hit by a wave of disorienting experience, a fragment of their alien psyche pressed violently against your own. There is no structure, only transmission. Their motivations are as fluid as their form. Above all, they exist to spread chaos, to unravel structure, to introduce disorder wherever order has taken root. This is not always done out of malice, but rather as a fundamental aspect of their being. Just as fire burns and rivers flow, Slaads disrupt. Beyond this central drive, they pursue biological needs, consuming matter or planar energy, reproducing in bizarre and often invasive ways, and follow unpredictable whims that make no sense to outsiders. One Slaad might guard a piece of broken metal for centuries, convinced it holds cosmic importance. Another might decide to walk a planar highway in silence, disrupting only what it pleases. These actions are not symbolic. They are not messages. They are simply what the Slaad wanted to do at that moment, and perhaps no longer wants to do a moment later. Alliances do occur, but they are fickle and fleeting. A group of Slaads may descend upon Mechanus to dismantle a lawful engine, only to turn on one another before the dust settles. Cooperation is a momentary coincidence, a shared rhythm of destruction. There is no trust, no loyalty, only temporary alignment of impulses. When that alignment ends, so too does the alliance. If there is any hierarchy among Slaads, it is brutal and ever-shifting. Power rules, but only for a moment. A dominant Slaad may command lesser ones through sheer might, terrifying presence, or sudden displays of uncontrollable power. but that dominance lasts only as long as it's actively enforced. A lesser Slaad, given the right moment or simply gripped by an irresistible impulse, may strike without warning, overthrowing its superior in a chaotic flash of rebellion. There are no ranks, no permanence, no throne of stability. Their structure, if it can be called that, is a rolling tide of violence, instinct, and fleeting influence, an echo of Limbo's constant, restless transformation. In the end, a Slaad is chaos. To understand one is not to know it, but to accept that knowing it fully may never be possible. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of Slaad existence, the true heart of their horrifying nature, lies in their grotesque and alien methods of reproduction. Their life cycle is not one of simple birth and growth, but of twisted metamorphosis, a living reflection of the chaos from which they came. It is a process that unsettles not only the body, but the very soul, violating the natural order in ways that defy understanding. Slaads do not simply create life. They corrupt it, warp it, and twist it into new, monstrous shapes. Life, to them, is something to be reshaped rather than begun. This dark cycle often begins with the red Slaad, primal agents of propagation. Their method of reproduction is insidious. They implant their young, be it an egg or a tiny, squirming larval form, directly into the flesh of a living, sentient host, usually a humanoid, and they do it quietly. No violent wound, no piercing strike, just a brush of claws, a momentary touch, and the seed is planted. From that moment forward, the host becomes a vessel for transformation. Over days or even weeks, their body is slowly hijacked. Muscles convulse, organs contort, bones shift beneath the skin, flesh becomes rough and alien. The transformation is silent, agonizing, and absolute until the host is no longer who they were, but something entirely other, a newly born red Slaad, clawing its way into the world. Equally horrifying is the path of infection carried by the blue Slaad. These creatures act as living vectors for a terrible disease, often called the chaos phage, a strange planar affliction that rewrites the body from within. A scratch, a bite, or even brief exposure to the blue Slaad's aura may be enough to infect the victim. The disease progresses slowly, invisibly at first, dismantling the host's cellular structure, breaking down the order of their being and replacing it with chaos. The result is the same, a transformation into a red Slaad, unless powerful magic intervenes in time. It is a quiet, creeping death, not of the body, but of the self, a corruption that replaces identity with pure, alien instinct. But this is only the beginning. Slaads are not static beings. As they grow, they change both in form and in power. A red Slaad may become a blue, and then a green, and beyond that, perhaps even a gray or death Slaad. These transformations are not natural or predictable. They are triggered by chaotic events, arcane rituals, bursts of planar energy, or the consumption of powerful beings. Some Slaads actively seek these metamorphoses, performing gruesome rites in the depths of limbo or devouring the essence of planar entities to fuel their own ascent. Others change through sheer proximity to chaos, a spontaneous reaction to the raw, unfiltered energy of limbo itself. In the midst of these transitions, a Slaad may enter a dormant state, a strange chrysalis where its form dissolves and reforms. The process is silent but terrible. The wet slide of shifting muscle, the creak of bones reconfiguring, the pulsing glow of flesh reshaping itself into something new. No two transformations are ever quite the same. This life cycle has no clear beginning or end. It is a loop, an endless spiral of change driven by chaos, not biology. There is no final form, no natural death. A Slaad is always becoming, always unbecoming, in a mirror of limbo's ceaseless motion. And from this strange biology springs something even more unsettling, the Slaad's belief system. They do not worship gods, nor build temples, nor pray in ways recognizable to mortals. Their religion is not one of ritual or scripture. It is one of being. They believe, with utter certainty, in the supremacy of chaos, in the eventual unraveling of all structure, and in the inevitable fall of order to entropy. They do not worship Slaad lords in the traditional sense, but rather view them as the ultimate expressions of chaotic perfection, embodied principles of their ever-shifting reality. Their form of devotion is not spoken aloud. It is lived. Every transformation, every infection, every act of violent randomness is their offering. In becoming more chaotic, they come closer to the truth of limbo. Their metamorphoses are sacred rites. Their existence is a liturgy written in flesh and flux. And so, without priests or prayers, the Slaads serve their faith with every breath they take. In the silence of their unstructured belief, one finds something more terrifying than any organized cult. A race that doesn't just worship chaos, but is chaos living proof that in the end, nothing remains fixed, and all things must eventually dissolve into the shifting storm. At the very peak of Slaad existence, beyond even the terrifying might of the Death Slaads, stand the legendary Slaad lords. To call them simply more powerful Slaads would be to miss the point entirely. These are not just creatures, not even monsters in the conventional sense. They are living embodiments of chaos itself, sentient echoes of Limbo's raw and untamed heart. Where ordinary Slaads reflect chaos in form and action, the Slaad lords are chaos made manifest, beings whose very presence bends reality into new and unpredictable shapes. Their names drift through the plains like whispered legends. Yigorl, the bringer of entropy, whose silent passage causes structure to unravel. Sendum, the insane, whose warped thoughts ripple through reality like a fevered dream. Chorst, the mouth of chaos, who bellows commands that twist the weave of fate itself. Ul, Hulun, the eternal silence, a presence so absent it unravels existence by simply being. And Wardle, the incessant, whose endless, meaningless motion defines chaos in its purest form. These beings are not leaders in any traditional sense. Chaos does not obey. It flows. Yet their will shapes the formless wilds of Limbo, as if the plane itself reacts to their moods and impulses. They do not sit upon thrones or rule with commands. Their influence is stranger and more primal. When a Slaad lord moves through Limbo, the plane responds not out of obedience, but because it cannot help but react. Entire regions may twist into impossible geometries. Gravity may reverse, sound might take form, and time may pause or race forward. Their passing rewrites the rules of reality around them. Not out of malice, not even intention, but because chaos recognizes its own and dances to their rhythm. Among the Slaads, few dare dream of such ascension. Yet, for those rare few with the strength, the madness, and the boundless devotion to chaos, the path may lead beyond even the Death Slaad. Through impossible trials, by absorbing pure planar essence, consuming ancient artifacts, or committing acts of unfathomable randomness, they may transform into something else entirely. These ascended beings defy labels. Some become sentient storms, others turn into walking paradoxes, beings whose forms shift with every blink. They no longer resemble anything one might call a Slaad, and perhaps that is the point. They become unique manifestations of chaos, new icons in an ever-expanding pantheon of unpredictability. But what may be most unnerving about these beings is not their power or their strange forms, it is their stillness. Unlike the restless, twitching chaos of lesser Slaads, the Slaad lords radiate a calm that is almost eerie. They are the eye of the storm, the silent center of a spinning void. In that stillness lies infinite potential, a pause before the next great burst of unpredictability. Their thoughts, if they can be understood at all, are vast and abstract. They do not care for mortal concerns or simple conflicts. Their awareness stretches across the planes, concerned only with the great balance or imbalance between law and chaos. To stand before a Slaad lord, even in thought, is to confront a kind of truth too vast for the mind to fully contain. The endless, cyclical rise and fall of structure, and the eternal, beautiful possibility of unshaped existence. In their presence, time loses meaning. Reality feels soft and pliable. Words crumble into sensation. And what remains is not fear, but awe, a quiet, creeping sense that everything solid is only temporary, and that beyond all things lies the peaceful hum of pure, unbound potential. Even for beings born of raw, unshaped chaos, creatures whose every breath defies order and expectation, there are strange paradoxes, hidden seams in the fabric of their nature. Fleeting, delicate vulnerabilities where the impossible becomes briefly possible, where chaos can be grasped, held, and, in rare cases, controlled. These are not weaknesses in the conventional sense, but rather odd fractures in their existence, moments where the unbound meets the immutable. Perhaps the most profound and well-known of these is the mystery of the true name. Every Slaad, from the most primal red to the near-mythic Slaad lords, carries within them a name, not just a spoken label, but a singular, unchanging word that resonates at the core of their being. It is a note in the great cosmic symphony, a frequency that cuts through the ever-shifting madness of their flesh and mind. To know a Slaad's true name is to hold a key to its essence. When spoken aloud by one who truly understands its meaning, this name can bend even the most unruly Slaad to obedience. A word alone can still their movements, silence their madness, or banish them back to the seething mists of limbo. There is a quiet, almost poetic irony in this. Beings who exist to defy structure and form can be bound by a word, the purest expression of form their island. It speaks to the deeper magic that lies at the heart of the multiverse, where everything chaos included must, on some level, obey the fundamental truths of reality. Even in the wildest storms, there are still moments of stillness. Even in unshaped potential, there are echoes of definition. A true name is one of those echoes. Beyond this conceptual vulnerability lies a more environmental one, planar, dissonance. Slaads are children of limbo, and the further they stray from it, the more alien they become to their surroundings, and the more the world pushes back. On planes governed by rigid structure and law, Mechanus, for example, or even the comparatively balanced material plane, their very essence is at odds with reality itself. These planes do not accept them. The laws that hold atoms together, the rules that shape time and space, resist their presence. Slowly, subtly, this resistance eats at them. Their forms might flicker or distort. Their power may wane unless constantly replenished by chaos. The strain is not immediate or fatal, but it is constant, a quiet drag on their being, a reminder that they do not belong. And yet, even this vulnerability is countered by their nature. For where chaos lives, so too does resilience. Slaads possess a strange immunity to many forms of magic, especially those grounded in rigid structure or predictable logic. Spells that rely on patterns, order, or precise mental control often falter against them. It's as though the very laws those spells rely on are rejected by the Slaad's being. Charm, compulsion, domination, these often wash over them like water over stone. Their minds do not follow the lines such magic expects to trace. In this, they are paradoxically protected by the same lawlessness that makes them unstable elsewhere. And so we come to the great contradiction. control through chaos. The Slaad can be bound. They can be subdued. But doing so requires a mastery not only of law, but of the strange edge where law and chaos meet. To truly control a Slaad is to step into that liminal space and impose will upon the unshaped. It is not just magic or strength, it is understanding, and for those who succeed, it is a powerful, humbling thing. Because in the end, this truth remains. No force in the multiverse exists in isolation. For every expression of chaos, there is a thread that tethers it to stillness. For every act of destruction, a moment of restraint. The existence of the Slaads, wild and unchained as they are, does not defy balance, it proves it. Even the wildest storm has a center. Even the endless flux of limbo hides the occasional moment of stillness. And in those moments, chaos listens, if only for a breath. And so, our quiet journey into the ever-shifting heart of limbo and the alien essence of the Slaads draws gently to a close. Together, we've drifted through the boundless, formless expanse of their native plane, embracing the very idea of chaos unbound. We've examined their monstrous yet strangely primeval forms, each color from the seething red to the cold finality of the Death Slaad, standing as a unique expression within chaos's spectrum. We felt the hum of their origins, pulsing from the enigmatic spawning stone, and glimpsed their endless, ancient struggle against the forces of order. A war, not of swords and shields, but of ideas. We've explored their unpredictable instincts, their absence of structure or society, and come to understand that every twitch, every impulse, is chaos made flesh. We've traced their chilling life cycle from the quiet horror of implanted transformation to the terrifying elegance of their metamorphoses, and finally, we looked up to the Slaad lords themselves. No longer mere creatures, these beings are living archetypes of anarchy, their very presence reshaping reality. And we've pondered the strange paradoxes that bind even these beings of pure disorder, the curious stillness of their true names, the push and pull of planes that cannot abide their presence. In all of this, we've sought not just to describe them, but to understand, to glimpse the Slaads not as monsters, but as manifestations of a deeper truth, that even in chaos there is beauty, rhythm, and purpose, that not all life conforms to order, and not all wisdom lies in predictability. Now, as the winds of limbo grow quiet, let the fluidity of the Slaads, unbound, unfixed, unafraid, settle softly within you. Release your grip on form. Let go of the need to organize, to plan, to define. Let your thoughts dissolve, like drifting clouds in a sky with no shape. There is nothing more to control, nothing more to fix. Allow your consciousness to melt into stillness. Let the gentle, formless hum of chaos become your lullaby, wrapping you in a strange and soothing calm. Let the silence of limbo become a haven, not of confusion, but of release. Sleep now, deeply, peacefully, without boundary. Let your rest be as vast and unshaped as the endless plain itself. Let the Slaad watch from afar, silent and unmoving, as you slip quietly beyond thought. Good night,